"You're the most disappointing one in this family." My sister said that to my face, with her finger practically pressed against my nose and a disgusted look like I had personally ruined her life. It wasn't the first insult she'd thrown my way, but something about that one stuck. It hit like a cold slap on a warm day. Shocking, embarrassing, and just loud enough for everyone to hear. My name's Aiden. I'm 26 now. Grew up in a suburb where the houses all looked the same, and the families pretended they did too. Our family of 5 always looked perfect from the outside. Mom's garden was pristine. Dad was the guy who mowed his lawn every Saturday morning like it was a sacred ritual. And my sister Lily? She was the golden child. The cheerleader with straight A's, dating the quarterback, doing charity work every other weekend. And then there was me, the disappointment, the quiet one, the kid who liked computers and fixed the Wi-Fi when it broke, the one who didn't like church, didn't like sports, didn't like pretending. We grew up in that tight little house on Maple Ridge, and every room echoed with comparisons. If I got a B+, Lily had already gotten an A. If I won a $500 coding contest, Lily had just gotten accepted to another prestigious leadership retreat. If I said I was tired, Lily had just run a fundraiser for kids with cancer. My parents didn't even pretend to hide the favoritism. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" was practically a household motto. I learned to live around it. I'd smile, nod, and walk back to my room. And when I shut the door behind me, I'd work. Quietly, obsessively, for hours. Building things. Learning. Solving problems. Coding in the dark while everyone else watched TV. By the time I was 22, I had 2 remote freelance jobs, a few small business clients, and a steadily growing savings account. My parents still thought I was just playing on the computer. I didn't bother correcting them. I let them believe I was lazy, irresponsible, directionless. Let them judge me from their little island of curated perfection. Because, truthfully, I didn't care about proving anything anymore. Not to them. Not until they needed me. And eventually, they did. It started small. Lily needed a new laptop for college. I had a spare, one I'd custom built. I offered it without being asked. She thanked me, sort of. More like a passing, "Oh, cool. Thanks." No eye contact. No appreciation. Then came the time Mom's car battery died in the middle of winter. I drove 45 minutes to jumpstart it while Dad was at a golf tournament. They said I was so helpful. That was the only time I heard those words, and even then, it sounded like they were reading them off a script. And then came the money. It wasn't all at once. It was casual, like it didn't mean anything. "Aiden, can we borrow a few hundred for Lily's textbook fees? We'll pay you back next month." "Aiden, your father and I are a little short on the mortgage this month. Do you mind?" At first, I gave without question. I figured, hey, I can afford it. It's family. That's what we do, right? Help each other out. But the paybacks never came, and the asks got bigger. By 24, I had moved into a small but decent apartment, still in the same town. I liked having my own space, finally breathing without needing to justify my existence. I'd come home, make coffee, work until 3 a.m. on projects that paid well and taught me more than any class ever could. I was quiet, independent, and apparently invisible until they needed something. They called me humble to their friends when it suited them. Aiden's the techie one, doesn't like attention, just likes helping out. But at home, I was still the scapegoat. Still the one who wasn't a team player, who never showed up enough, who only thought about himself. It all boiled over last Christmas. Lily had just graduated law school, and the whole family threw her a party. Not just any party, a full-blown event with catered food, custom decorations, and 30 guests packed into the house. I got a group text invite 2 days before. No direct message. No "hey, we'd love to have you." Just a time and place. I showed up anyway, with a decent gift. One of those leather briefcases professionals always carry. It cost me more than I'd like to admit, but I figured maybe this time they'd see I cared. The moment I walked in, Lily barely glanced at me. Everyone else was gushing over her. "Lily, you're amazing. Lily, you're going to change the world. Lily, Harvard's next, right?" I stayed by the food table for most of the evening, sipping punch and dodging conversations. Then came the moment that changed everything. We were all gathered around the living room, and Dad raised a toast. To Lily, the pride of this family. I clapped like everyone else. Nothing new. But then someone, I think it was our cousin Jason, asked if Lily was going to pay off her student loans with her fancy new job. She laughed and said, Hopefully I won't have to. With Aiden playing sugar daddy these days. People chuckled. Even my parents smiled like it was a cute joke. I just stared at her. She looked me dead in the eyes and smirked. And that's when I asked, quietly, "How much have I paid for you, Lily?" The room went quiet. "What?" she asked, feigning innocence. "How much? Just a ballpark." I sipped my punch again. "Oh my God, Aiden, are you seriously doing this now?" Her voice rose. "I just want to know. Since it's such a joke. Tuition, laptop, textbooks, bar prep course. I have the receipts. It's close to $28,000, right?" My mom gasped. My dad cleared his throat. Lily flushed red. "You're being dramatic," she said. "We're family. It's not like we were taking advantage." I nodded slowly. "Right. Of course." Then she pointed at me, and I swear the room went ice cold. "You know what your problem is? You think money makes you important. But it doesn't. You're the most disappointing one in this family, Aiden. Always have been. Always will be." She said it so matter-of-factly, like it wasn't up for debate. I didn't say anything. Didn't make a scene. Didn't cry or argue. I just nodded, set my drink down, and walked out. No one followed me. I went home, packed my bags, and left town the next morning. No calls. No messages. I didn't block anyone, just stopped replying. I got an Airbnb in a small mountain town and kept working remotely. Peaceful. Quiet. For the first time in years, I slept without clenching my jaw. Then, 3 weeks later, I got a call from my dad. He sounded panicked. "Aiden, why isn't the loan paid? The one for Lily's car." I paused, staring out the window. I smiled just a little, and I said, "Your disappointment isn't your sponsor anymore." I stared at my phone for a long time after I hung up on Dad. The silence felt louder than anything he'd said. My heart wasn't pounding. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. I felt empty, numb, like something that had been hanging on by threads inside of me had finally snapped loose, floated away, and left nothing in its place. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It hadn't been for a while. It was the years of swallowing disrespect, of being useful but not valued, needed but never appreciated, present but somehow always invisible. I didn't answer any of their follow-up calls. Not when Dad called again 10 minutes later. Not when Mom texted, "Can we just talk?" Not when Lily sent a single word, "Seriously?" I turned off my phone for 3 days. I sat in that little rental cabin and watched the snow fall through the windows, and for the first time in years, I breathed without feeling like I owed anyone anything. When I finally turned the phone back on, the voicemails flooded in. Dad's tone went from demanding to pleading, back to angry. Mom's messages were wrapped in guilt. "We didn't mean it that way. You know we love you. Don't overreact." Lily didn't even pretend to apologize. One message just said, "You embarrassed the whole family walking out like that. Grow up." That was it for me. I wasn't coming back. Weeks passed. I stayed gone. I got another gig, building a custom backend for a startup in Austin, and the check hit my account 2 days before my birthday. I splurged on a new espresso machine and cooked myself a steak. No one called. No one said happy birthday. I didn't expect them to, but it still stung. Even after everything. I think the turning point wasn't when Lily called me a disappointment. It was when they all heard it and said nothing. That silence. That was worse. And yet, somehow, things kept escalating. Mid-February, I got a notice from the bank. An account I'd co-signed with my dad when I was 21, a dumb favor I did without asking questions, had been drawn on again. He was using it. A lot. For what? I had no idea. But I sure knew who'd be liable if it defaulted. I called the bank, froze the account, and started the process to get my name off it. And I finally blocked Dad's number. Not out of spite. Just self-preservation. But that was the moment they snapped. The emails started arriving. First from Mom. Then from Lily. Then from my aunt, of all people. Mom wrote, "You're making things harder than they need to be. This is your father. He's done so much for you. Can't you put your pride aside for once?" Lily's was worse. "Hope you feel good screwing over your own family. Dad might lose the house. Guess you really are as cold as we all thought." And Aunt Michelle, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years, "Aiden, honey, your mom is worried sick. Can you please come home and fix this? Be the bigger person." The bigger person. That's what they always wanted from me. The one who doesn't talk back. The one who quietly steps in, cleans up the mess, and vanishes again. I didn't reply to any of them. But I did something else. I logged into my bookkeeping software, and started pulling receipts. Every transfer, every loan, every tuition payment, every gas tank filled when they forgot their wallets. I compiled it all, organized it, added interest. The total was just shy of $42,000. I didn't plan on collecting. I wasn't going to sue them or demand the money. That wasn't the point. The point was to stop letting them pretend it didn't happen. I sent the PDF in a group email. No message, just the file. I titled it disappointment_invoice.pdf. Lily replied in 5 minutes. Are you out of your mind? I didn't answer. Mom called. I let it ring. Dad showed up at my door. That I didn't expect. I heard the knock at noon on a Sunday. Peeked through the window. There he was, standing in his Sunday jacket, hair neatly combed, eyes already looking tired. I opened the door halfway. What are you doing here? I asked. He took off his cap, held it in his hands like he was at a funeral. I need to talk, he said. Please. I let him in. Not out of kindness. More like curiosity. I needed to see it for myself. What this man, who had ignored my birthdays, downplayed my work, and let his daughter humiliate me in front of our entire family, would say now. He didn't sit, just stood awkwardly by the window. Your mother and I were worried. About me? No. About this family falling apart. I almost laughed. It's been falling apart for years, Dad. You just never noticed because it wasn't your side cracking. He winced. Look, I know we've made mistakes. Stop, I said, sharper than I intended. Don't make this about we. You're not here to apologize. You're here because I stopped paying your bills. That hit him, harder than I thought it would. He looked down at the floor, then back at me, and said something I'll never forget. Lily's in trouble. I raised an eyebrow. Define trouble. She used your name. For another loan. The room went silent. My heart dropped, and I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. But there wasn't one. Excuse me, I said quietly. She said it was a short-term thing. A bridge loan. She thought you wouldn't mind. She used your name and credit history through that cosign account. The bank didn't flag it until they tried to contact you and couldn't reach her. I sat down slowly. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Dad kept going. It was supposed to be a down payment on a place with her fiancé. But now he backed out. And she defaulted. The debt's in collections, and your name's still attached. I didn't even feel anger. I felt heat. Cold, acidic heat in my stomach, crawling up my spine. She committed fraud, I said flatly. She's your sister. Exactly. He stepped forward. She didn't mean harm. She stole my identity, Dad. I know. We didn't know where else to turn. That's when I saw it. The truth. He wasn't here because he was sorry. He was here because the walls were closing in. And the only person who'd ever saved them before, the disappointment, had finally walked away. And they were drowning without me. I stood up. You need to leave. Aiden. Now. He looked like he might cry. Like he'd been practicing this speech in the car the whole way over, and none of it worked the way he wanted. But I didn't budge. And eventually, he nodded, put his cap back on, and walked out the door. I locked it behind him. Then I sat back down, opened my laptop, and looked up legal counsel. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. This was war. And the worst part? It was just getting started. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there at the kitchen table, the screen glow painting shadows across the walls as I reread the bank notifications, legal disclaimers, and loan documentation Lily had signed. Using my name. My name. My credit. My reputation. Also, she could lock in a condo with her fiancé. A fiancé who'd apparently bailed the second the down payment cleared. She hadn't even bothered to tell me. She hadn't called. Hadn't messaged. Hadn't apologized. The only reason I knew was because the walls finally got too tall for her to climb, and Dad had come knocking like I was the family's emergency fire escape. The account balance read negative. The debt? $67,300, including penalties. It had been accumulating interest for weeks. That bridge loan Lily took out? She never intended to pay it back. I'd been robbed. Not by a stranger in the night. Not by some scammer on the internet. By my own sister. The golden girl. The one with the halo so bright, Mom and Dad couldn't see the smoke curling behind her. The one I'd given laptops to, paid tuition for, defended when people said she was manipulative or fake. I remembered every single late-night call where she cried over a breakup or a bad exam, or how no one understood how much pressure she was under. I had listened. I had supported her. I had carried her weight on my back for years. And now she'd forged my signature and dumped 67 grand on my shoulders like I was her personal vault. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel. Not yet. But I moved. Methodically. I sent emails. I printed documents. I locked my credit. Filed the fraud report. Contacted a lawyer. It took me 4 days to put everything in motion. 4 days of silent, tight-lipped focus. I drank cold coffee. Ate nothing but toast. I didn't turn on music. I didn't answer any calls. My mind tunneled inward like I was digging out of a collapsed mine shaft. On the 5th day, it hit me. I sat in the shower at 2 a.m., fully clothed, just letting the water run, and the pressure finally cracked something open. My chest hurt. My jaw was sore from clenching. My vision blurred and cleared in waves. I was angry. Not the explosive kind, the quiet, corrosive kind that eats your ribs from the inside. Not just at Lily. At all of them. For never seeing me. For treating my generosity like a bank withdrawal with no receipt. For inviting me to every crisis, but never to the celebrations. For building me into a family myth, the disappointment with a debit card. That was the fall. And as much as it hurt, it was also clarifying. It was the first time I didn't doubt whether I deserved better. I knew I did. After that, something in me shifted. I went quiet, but in a different way than before. Not invisible, not withdrawn, just focused, controlled. Like the volume in my head finally turned down enough for me to think clearly. I didn't call anyone. Not my parents. Not Lily. Not my aunt or cousins. I ghosted the family WhatsApp group without a word. I even muted my own birthday reminders. I didn't need more "sorry I missed it" messages 6 days late. Instead, I worked. But this time, it wasn't just about paying bills. I'd always been the freelancer, the behind-the-scenes fixer, the guy people paid to clean up their code or redesign their broken systems. I made good money, but I never built anything for myself. I never had time. Family always came first. Their crises always filled the calendar. Not anymore. I spent 2 months doing nothing but writing. I had this idea for a SaaS tool that automated workflow integrations for mid-sized businesses. Boring to some, but I knew the demand was there. I'd seen it firsthand while helping clients duct tape 5 platforms together just to get one clean analytics dashboard. So I built it. From scratch. Wrote the backend in Python, built a sleek front end in React, tested it in beta with 2 old clients I trusted, and slowly, carefully, polished it until it actually worked. I named it Thread, because that's what I was doing, pulling a thread through everything they'd tangled around me, and stitching something new out of it. By the 3rd month, I had 10 companies using it. By month 5, I had a waiting list. Revenue didn't explode overnight, but it was steady, predictable, mine. And for the first time, I wasn't just trading hours for money. I was building equity. I was building value. And I didn't tell anyone. Not a soul. I didn't post about it on social. Didn't bring it up in conversations with old friends. I wasn't doing it to prove anything. I was doing it because it felt good, clean, quietly powerful. In the background, the legal stuff dragged on. The fraud report triggered an investigation. The bank sided with me, but the collections agency was slower to back off. My lawyer filed a formal notice against Lily. She didn't respond. Then she did. A text. Just 3 words. "You ruined me." I stared at it for a long time. The audacity. I didn't reply. I screenshotted it, sent it to my lawyer, and blocked the number. I heard through a mutual friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, that Lily's engagement officially collapsed after the fraud went public. Her ex-fiancé's family threatened legal action. She lost her job at the law firm before her trial period ended. Something about ethics violations. She moved back in with my parents. They didn't tell me. Of course they didn't. But I saw them watching my Instagram stories one night. My mom, my dad, even Lily's old account, which I hadn't blocked yet. I wasn't posting anything flashy, just coffee, sunsets, code snippets. But I could feel the shift. They knew I was doing fine, better than fine, and they hated that they didn't know how. Around this time, I moved. Found a loft an hour north, overlooking a small river, with tall ceilings and brutalist beams, and this strange sense of peace I'd never felt in the old house. I filled it with plants, got a new couch, installed a standing desk. I stopped ordering fast food and started cooking, badly at first, then surprisingly well. I started sleeping. Deep, uninterrupted sleep, like my nervous system had finally stopped flinching. And somewhere between the work, the solitude, and the silence, I started to heal. Not in the self-help book kind of way. Not with affirmations or vision boards. Just time, boundaries, space. I remembered who I was before the guilt, before the golden child comparisons, before the finger in my face. And I started to like that guy again. One night, I was sitting on the balcony watching the moonrise, laptop on my knees, debugging a weird issue in Thread's notification system. When it hit me, I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way I had been. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I wasn't counting how many people still owed me gratitude. I wasn't replaying Lily's words in my head like a scratched record. I was done with all of that. But that didn't mean I was done with them. Because as much as I'd rebuilt my life, my business, my self-worth, there was still one thing left hanging in the air. Accountability. They thought they'd gotten away with it. That the worst had already passed. That I'd disappear again like I always had. Quiet, tired, obliging. They hadn't seen who I'd become. And the moment to show them was coming. Soon. Very soon. But not yet. Revenge is a funny word. People think it's loud, flashing headlights, slammed doors, screaming confrontations in family kitchens. But real revenge, at least the kind that satisfies something deeper than ego, isn't loud at all. It's slow, surgical. It whispers, "I see you," while it rearranges the walls of the maze until the rat realizes it's trapped. And by the time I reached month 7 in that new loft, with my business growing and my peace finally steady, I didn't want to scream anymore. I just wanted them to see clearly, everything. Not just what they did to me, but what I became without them, and what they lost because of it. That's where it started. The setup. It began with a wedding invitation. Not Lily's, of course. Hers had disintegrated months ago, buried under a collapsed engagement and a fraud report. No, this was my cousin Maddie, Mom's niece. The nice one. The only person in our extended family who had ever treated me like I wasn't defective. She was getting married that August. Outdoor ceremony, big venue, all the family invited, including, apparently, me. Maddie's email was short but warm. "Aiden, I hope this reaches you. I know things have been messy, and I won't pretend to understand everything, but I'd love to have you there if you're open to it. No pressure. Just family. For real this time." I stared at that message for a while. At first, I almost declined. I hadn't seen these people in nearly a year. What was the point? But then I thought about that word again, revenge. And I realized, this wasn't just a wedding. It was a stage. A captive audience. A pressure cooker of unspoken drama simmering under a white tint and mason jar centerpieces. And suddenly, it was perfect. But I wouldn't just show up. I'd show up changed. Proven. And with a truth they couldn't dodge. I started by gathering receipts, digital and emotional. Remember that PDF I sent months ago? The disappointment underscore invoice. That was just the teaser. I had every Venmo transaction, every tuition payment, every bank transfer, every chat where I was just helping out. I organized them again, this time with commentary. Each section labeled, dated, and highlighted with red flags where Lily's signature had been forged or stretched into something legally damning. Then I contacted my lawyer. Not to sue. Not yet. But to prep something public. Not a scandal. Just exposure. Controlled. Elegant. He helped me draft a letter, neutral in tone, but razor-sharp in content. A formal notice outlining the fraud, the damages, the bank's decision to remove liability from my name, and Lily's refusal to engage in restitution. It read like a case file, not a tantrum. It even had a watermark. I printed 20 copies on thick cream paper. Next, I reached out to 2 old clients, business owners who owed me favors. I told them I was considering launching Thread 2.0 as a formal SaaS product at the end of summer and was looking for early partners and testimonials. Both said yes within a day. One of them offered to sponsor a booth at an upcoming tech networking event in late July. That gave me 3 weeks to prep branding, polish the UI, and print brochures. It also gave me a deadline, 1 week before the wedding. Just enough time to update my site, publish my growth numbers, and have something real to show for the ghost they thought I'd become. But the real setup? The personal one? That came with a single message I never expected to send. I reached out to Lily's ex. His name was Jordan. I didn't know him well. We'd met twice at holidays. But he seemed sharp, quiet, polite. And I remembered something he'd said once at a family dinner, back when they were still engaged. Lily always talks about how much she owes her brother. I didn't realize he basically funded her degree. At the time, I thought it was a compliment. Now I realized it was a clue. So I messaged him. Simple. Direct. Hey Jordan, I know this is random. I wanted to ask if you'd be open to a call. It's about something that affected both of us. No drama. Just the truth. He replied in 5 minutes. We spoke that night. For 2 hours. Turns out, Lily had told him she had taken out the condo loan in her own name, but that her generous brother was helping co-sign to build trust. She'd convinced Jordan that I was in on it, that I was her financial sidekick. He was furious when he found out otherwise. He'd already been having doubts about her, the lies about small things, the stories that never added up. But when he saw my documents, screenshotted receipts, the loan applications, my bank's fraud report, he sat in silence for a solid minute. Then he just said, I should have seen it. I didn't ask him to do anything. But 2 days later, he emailed me a notarized affidavit stating he'd been misled by Lily and confirming that I had not, in any way, consented to the loan. It was like being handed a sword. Polished, sharp, and entirely legal. I added it to the folder. By the end of July, the Thread 2.0 launch went live. The site looked crisp. I had live demos running, early adopters giving testimonials, and my LinkedIn finally updated with a professional-looking banner and a confident bio. Within 48 hours, I had 2,000 views. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't post flashy screenshots. I just added a new tagline beneath my name. Founder Rebuilder, previously known as the Family Disappointment. It was subtle, but I knew they'd see it. Because right after I posted it, Mom viewed my profile. Then Lily. Then, 2 days later, even Aunt Michelle. No one messaged me. But that's when the texts started rolling in, from cousins, old family friends, even a neighbor from my childhood street. Dude, this looks amazing. Congrats on the new business, man. Looks like you've been killing it. Just saw your launch. I knew you were quiet for a reason. Every single one was fuel. And I kept quiet. Kept posting. Until the wedding. The drive down felt like the beginning of a heist. I had the documents packed neatly in a folder in my glove box. My outfit was tailored but subtle, nothing flashy, just clean lines and quiet wealth. The venue was a rustic vineyard, all twinkle lights and linen napkins. I parked at the far end of the gravel lot and took a deep breath before walking in. First eyes on me, Aunt Michelle. Her face twitched when she saw me, somewhere between forced warmth and anxiety. She gave me a hug that felt like shaking hands with a statue. You look different, she said. I am, I replied. Maddie was glowing. She pulled me into a real hug and whispered, I'm so glad you came. Seriously. I smiled and handed her a small envelope. Inside was a personal check, signed, no note. She opened it hours later and cried. I know because she texted me the next day. No one's ever believed in me like that. Thank you. But that night, the show was just beginning. I wasn't seated at the main family table, of course, but close enough. I could see Lily, her hair curled tight, her dress a little too showy for a wedding she wasn't starring in. Her expression? Tight, like she was holding her breath every time someone new walked in, terrified they might have heard something. She saw me about halfway through the reception. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't wave. I didn't either. I waited until after dinner. People were milling around. Toasts had been made. The music had started. I picked my moment carefully, just enough wine flowing for lips to loosen, but not enough for memories to blur. I walked over to the family table, smiled at Mom, nodded at Dad, looked Lily dead in the eyes. Hey, I said casually. Quick thing. I brought a few things I thought you might want to see. She stiffened. What? Don't worry. It's not public. Yet. Then I slid the envelope onto the table. Cream paper. Neatly sealed. No dramatics. Dad reached for it. Lily snatched it first. She opened it. Read the title page. Then froze. I leaned closer, quiet enough that only our table could hear. That's the total amount of money I contributed to your education, career, and lifestyle over the past 10 years, along with the fraudulent loan and a notarized statement from Jordan confirming he was misled. Her mouth opened slightly. She looked at Dad, then Mom, both pale. I smiled. Don't worry. I'm not suing. Yet. And then, still calm, still quiet, I said. But if I ever hear my name brought up again, if I get one more email, one more whisper, one more guilt trip, this packet goes to every single contact in this room, and the bar association, and your former employer, and your future ones. She tried to speak. I raised one hand. Not here. Not tonight. Maddie deserves better. But after this wedding, we are done. Then I turned and walked away. Not to the car, but to the dance floor, where I smiled, for the first time in a year, for real. Because the trap was set. And the fall? The one they thought I'd never recover from? It was just the launch pad. But the final act? That was still coming. The silence that followed the wedding was louder than any fight we'd ever had. No messages. No emails. No blocked calls from mom begging for just a minute. No texts from dad trying to clear the air. Not even one of those passive-aggressive chain-forwarded Bible quotes from Aunt Michelle. It was like someone had finally unplugged the family machine, and all that noise I'd lived under for years just stopped. It was the first time in my life they didn't try to guilt me back, which told me one thing: they were scared, and they should have been, because I hadn't even started yet. The wedding was never meant to be the revenge. That was just the warning shot. A dress rehearsal. One final chance for them to do the unthinkable, apologize. But they didn't. Not after the envelope. Not after seeing Jordan's affidavit, or the receipts, or the line item for the fraud Lily committed in plain daylight. No calls. No apologies. No ownership. Just silence. And if there's one thing I learned about people like my family, it's this: they only stay quiet when they're plotting. So I watched. I waited. I didn't need to poke the bear. I already knew it was coming. A few weeks later, it did. An email. From a generic HR@greenstonelegal.com. I clicked it open, heart steady, eyes already braced for it. It was a reference request. For Lily. Apparently, she'd applied to an in-house counsel position at a mid-sized firm 2 states over. They were doing their due diligence. She'd listed me as her freelance client from 2020 to 2021. That was bold. Lie 1. I had never hired her. Lie 2. We hadn't spoken professionally in years. Lie 3. She stole from me. I thought about it for a long moment. Then I picked up the phone and called their HR department directly. Hi, this is Aiden Miles. I'm following up on a reference request you sent me regarding Lily Miles. I want to make sure you have the full context before proceeding. The woman on the other end was polite but cautious. Yes, of course. We always appreciate clarification. I'm afraid I can't recommend her. Not only was she never contracted by my company, but she also used my identity to secure a fraudulent loan of over $60,000. Legal documentation confirming this, including a bank fraud report and a notarized statement from a third party, can be sent upon request. There was a pause. Then the HR rep asked, "Would you mind emailing that to us?" I did. Within 5 minutes. Lily didn't get the job. I found out through the same mutual friend who'd told me about her fiancé leaving. Apparently, she'd made it to the final round before they pulled her application with zero explanation. She cried for 2 days. My parents blamed cancel culture. I didn't respond. I just archived the email chain in a folder called Clean Cuts. But that was just part 1. Part 2 started when Thread hit 500 active users. By now, the tool had a proper marketing funnel. Clean UX. A wait list growing by the day. I'd hired 2 part-time devs and a virtual assistant. One of my old college friends, Mason, came on as my operations partner. We'd done projects together back in school, and he was the kind of guy who loved structure the way I loved building. Mason knew my story, every gritty detail. And when I told him I had one more thing to do, one final card to play, he didn't blink. Just make sure they see it, he said. Otherwise, it's just justice, not revenge. So I did. I launched the statement. It was a blog post. Clean. Simple. Titled, "The Cost of Being the Family Disappointment." I didn't name anyone. I didn't call out specifics. But I told the story exactly as it happened. The golden child. The stolen identity. The quiet rebuild. The rise. The moment I walked away. It was part memoir, part business case study. I framed it as a founder's journey. How betrayal taught me boundaries. How distance taught me discipline. How pain taught me purpose. And I ended it with a line I had written months earlier on a napkin in that mountain cabin while watching the snow fall. Sometimes, the best thing your family can give you is a reason to become unrecognizable. It blew up. I woke up to 12,000 views. Then 50,000. Then it got reposted on a startup founder forum and shared on LinkedIn by 2 angel investors. A week later, a VC emailed me. He didn't ask about the story, just said, "Thread looks interesting. Let's talk." By the end of the quarter, I had a seed offer on the table. Low 7 figures. I didn't take it yet, but I printed the offer sheet and tucked it inside the same folder as the old fraud documents. Just in case. That was when the real fallout began. Mom broke first. She called one Sunday morning, around 10 a.m., like nothing had happened. No acknowledgement of the post. No mention of Lily. Just, "Hi honey, how have you been?" I let her talk for 5 minutes. About how the garden was doing. About how Dad's cholesterol was finally coming down. About how she'd seen one of your little articles floating around and thought, "Wow, maybe he's finally doing okay." I was silent the whole time. Then I asked, "Did you know?" She paused. "Know what?" "That Lily used my name. That she put me in debt. That she cost me nearly 70 grand and tried to pretend it was a gift." A long silence. Then, she was scared. I laughed. So was I. She sighed. "Families make mistakes, Aiden. But we don't turn on each other. You turned on me years ago. You just didn't call it that." Then I hung up. Dad emailed next. A single line. "If this is your idea of revenge, congratulations." I replied with a link to the article. And nothing else. "Lily?" She finally broke her silence with a letter. Handwritten. Delivered to my office. The handwriting was tight, neat, almost lawyerly. Like she'd edited it a dozen times before committing to paper. She didn't apologize. Not really. She said she regretted the outcome. That she was struggling to rebuild. That she hoped one day we could sit down and talk like adults. She ended it with a line that felt like the last shred of control she had left. "At the end of the day, we're still blood." I didn't reply, but I did frame it. Put it on the wall across from my desk. Right under a black and white print of my blog post headline. A reminder of what it cost. And what it taught me. These days, thread is profitable. We're not huge, maybe we never will be, but we're steady, solid, clean. I wake up excited to work. I go to sleep without checking my phone for drama. I see a therapist once a week, not because I'm broken, but because I never want to be blind again. Sometimes, Maddie texts me pictures of her baby. She calls me Uncle Aiden. I send her gift cards and bad dad jokes, and every once in a while, she'll say, "You should come visit." Maybe someday I will. But I like my space. I like my peace. I like who I became when I finally stopped asking for their permission to exist. And as for the family that called me a disappointment, they were right. But not in the way they thought. I disappointed every expectation they had. And it saved my life.
Be the same place. Because isn't there a place, there's Knuckle Sandwich, which is the sandwich truck in Austin, which is awesome.
And Chris Brown's album.
Oh, these are Guy Fieri cigars. All right, let's hope they're good.
Did you see that bachelorette who got kicked off for beating the shit out of her husband?
Yo,
Yeah.
for real? On the show?
My wife's a big reality lady. And
That's healthy.
I know, right? She loves it. All of those.
good.
90 Day Fiancé.
Chicks love that shit.
They love it. That and true crime.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it weird?
Oh, yeah.
I get the true crime because they don't really commit those kind of violent acts, so they probably need to understand, like, the male mind.
Right,
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just stuck up. It's almost time for spring break, so maybe you're headed to the beach, or maybe you're taking the kids on a road trip, or maybe you're just taking some extra time for yourself. No matter what, you deserve a break and a reset, and AG1 can help. AG1 is your daily health drink. Just one scoop combines your multivitamin, pre- and probiotics, superfoods, and antioxidants to help support a healthy immune system and digestion. Plus, it travels really well, so you can start working it into your routine even when you don't have a routine. Just slip a few travel packs into your luggage and have a nice flight. I've talked about AG1 for a long time, and it's not just me. I know a lot of people enjoy it. It's very easy, it's very convenient, and you deserve to take care of your health. Visit drinkag1.com/Joe Rogan, and for a limited time, get a bottle of omega-3 vitamin D3K2 and an AG1 flavor sampler for free in your welcome kit with your first subscription. That's an $111 value at drinkag1.com/Joe Rogan.
Well, they say it's biological. They're like, oh, I'm learning how to avoid these scary moments.
No, I get that, because it is. Like, my daughters, young daughters, they all love it. Everyone loves it. Their friends love it.
Yeah.
It's like the #1 show with ladies.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the #1 podcast with ladies is true crime.
It's great.
You know what the #2 show for ladies is?
What?
You're on it.
Hey, get out of here.
Hey.
Really?
Number one with black people, too. Holla.
Hey, take that, Shay Shay.
Holla.
All right.
Shout out to all my African-American friends.
Hell
Let's
yeah.
fucking go. These are not bad. Guy Fieri. Let's go, Guy.
I love Guy.
He's a fun dude.
Cool dude.
Got a bunch of yellow cars, though. That's odd.
Yeah. He's not the best fashion sense. You know, shirts with flames on it, frosted tips.
Yeah, but you're paying attention. Right?
That's true. He's
Like,
got
if you
me.
want to be a chef and you want to be like a celebrity chef, you got to either be a great narrator and a great writer like Bourdain.
Yeah.
Or you got to be like angry.
Like Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay. You
Yeah.
know?
That's true. But what happened to chefs? When I was a kid, chefs were like fat guys with beards, and now they're jacked with tats.
Yeah, well, they all look like artists because they are artists.
I guess, but it's
I didn't really think of that until I watched Bourdain show. And then I was like, oh, these guys are making temporary art.
that's true. Then you get to eat it.
Yeah, but it is art.
It is art. Yeah, they're mixing oils. There's a lot of chemistry involved.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of went the same path as porn stars. Porn stars used to be like voluptuous and hairy, bush, and now they're all like MMA fighters. They're jacked and taking it in the ass. It's wild. They're all tatted up and pierced and shit.
One of the things that I've been watching a lot when the world is going completely crazy, I watch people making street food in other countries.
Oh, that's
With no language, no talking. It's all ASMR. It's all them cooking.
Oh yeah, and no regulations either.
Bring them over here. Bring them over here.
I
Come
mean,
on.
they're